Good morning. This is Spirit Journey, and it is now 6:39 a.m., February 11th, 2019. I'm watching a video on, it's entitled Chemical Warfare by Food. And it's featuring two Black individuals discussing the food industry. And they have a picture of this hamburger, really dressed up looking. But it has me thinking. It's now a little over 2 weeks since my dear friend had passed away from cancer at that. Yeah. I was very saddened when I learned the news of my friend passing. She's from the state of Hawaii. And what I want to share about the state of Hawaii, this message is to the people of Hawaii, and in specific, the indigenous Native Hawaiians that live there. Whether they're mixed-race Hawaiians or pure-blooded Hawaiians. It's those people who identify, who live in that community, and even those who live abroad. And I see here that it just catches up to you. Whatever what you are, catches up to you. So even if you're a Hawaiian who moved off the island, like my friend, she had lived off the island away for, I was told, 10 years. I didn't realize it was that long. And then she had come back to the state of Hawaii about 2 years ago. Yeah. It's the food about the state of Hawaii. That's what I want to really focus on. This video will not be an attack on the culture or just to slam dunk Native Hawaiians. I lived in Hawaii for about 3 years. I fellowshipped with them in church. I worked with them. I socialized with them. I shopped in their supermarkets, everything. I was a part of the Society of Hawaii. I was learning a traditional Polynesian dance, etc. I am not a Native Hawaiian. I have to be upfront with that. I am not a Native Hawaiian. I am an American from New York City, born and raised. But I had an opportunity to live in Hawaii. And again, Hawaii is a state. It is the United States of America. I love the people of Hawaii. I love in particular the Hawaiians. I've never met an ethnic group that was genuinely loving as they. When they love fully. When they share fully. I've never experienced the type of love that they shared with me and the love that my friend who passed away a little over 2 weeks ago has shared with me. So peace and love to the Native Hawaiians. I see your pain and suffering. I want to share with you some of the things that my experiences and things that I was told. Now, I first want to share about the food of Hawaii. It's very expensive. Very, very expensive. I used to shop at one of the local supermarkets in, what was it, Kahului or Wailuku? Yeah, I think it's still part of Wailuku. Yeah, a very local supermarket. It could be Japanese owned. There are a lot of Japanese, people of Japanese ancestry that live in Hawaii. Very local place. And I lived about a mile away from there. And so that was my supermarket when I lived in that neighborhood in Wailuku. Things were very expensive. And so the state of Hawaii, I mean, it's not, you don't get paid a lot of money, the wages. And the people there, the mainstream local populace, you really don't have a lot of money. And many of you work more than one job. And I had to do that also, work more than one job. And the quality of the food, a lot of packaged foods, heavily processed foods. A lot of spam is being eaten there, has tons of preservatives and sodium in it. A lot of white rice is eaten. And they have what they call a bento plate, B-E-N-T-O. And that primarily consists of a large bed of white rice and some meat. I forget if there's any veggies in there. And I think the word bento, it's Japanese in origin, the word. I could be wrong. But this is like what's considered like the staple of the people of Hawaii, not Hawaiians per se. What happens in the state of Hawaii, it's a lot of obesity, a lot of obesity, not just overweight, but obesity. They have what's there called morbid obesity at a higher rate. They have morbid obesity here too in the mainland and in New York. But unlike the state of Hawaii, many of the people, the indigenous Hawaiians there, or those who are mixed with Native Hawaiian, have morbid obesity. That means they have a body mass index of a certain level. I forget what the number is, but it surpasses obesity. It goes beyond. I think it could be a body mass index of 40 or more. So it's very high. When you get to morbid obesity, you are almost start to look misshapen in your body structure because you're so massive. And with that comes diabetes. And then with diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancers. It's really bad. But you wonder why does it seem to target Hawaiians, Native Hawaiians, at an alarmingly high rate? And I think that's where the targeting comes in, the genetic targeting. Just like in the U.S. mainland, that American blacks, on average, are more obese than most of the people on the U.S. mainland. And then in the state of Hawaii, which is off the mainland, why the people of obesity or morbid obesity are oftentimes Hawaiian, Native Hawaiian. So I start to think, what's going on? Now, I know a girl, a Native Hawaiian girl. She was a light-skinned Native Hawaiian. And she She weighed almost 400 pounds. And she definitely is obese. And I'm not sure whether she'll be classified as morbid obese, but she's about maybe between 5'7" and 5'9", and close to 400 pounds. That's heavy regardless. And one day she relayed a story to me. She said, well, in the 1980s, things were really bad for Hawaiians, and that they were treated like black people. Now, this woman doesn't mean it as an insult to me because I am a black person, just like she is a Hawaiian person. She didn't mean anything pejorative. She's just stating how it was, and that's how I took it. And it's unfortunate that that analogy was given, but she was just expressing herself about what the deal was, that Native Hawaiians were treated socially how American blacks are treated on the U.S. mainland, second-class citizen. So that's coming from their mouth. It was something that she shared with me. We weren't even discussing about racial disparities upon any group, but it's just something she felt that she needed to share. And she also added that she knew that she wouldn't be marrying a Native Hawaiian, and that not that she has anything against Native Hawaiians, but that she just knew she'd probably just marry some type of Pacific Islander of some type. And that is what happened with her. But still, she's sharing me this for a reason. She knew she could entrust me with this information, a black woman from the mainland, the U.S. mainland. And what I see is this, that she's being taught socially not to love herself, not to marry your own. And the same as me, that I was taught not to love myself, love my own. And I didn't see myself marrying my own either. So here you have a person who is morbid obese or approaching that point, and a state, an island that has a massive amount of obese and morbidly obese individuals, and oftentimes from Hawaii, Native Hawaiian. Yes, the quality of the food for the people of Hawaii is lacking, just like the quality of the food in the U.S. mainland, in its urban centers where most of the American blacks live. Most of the American blacks now live in urban centers rather than in rural centers. It is what it is. And with this, the supermarkets do not cater to black people with quality foods. So like in the state of Hawaii, they get the processed food, and any veggies that they have is inferior in quality and very expensive, very pricey. And if you have a limited income, and if you have a lot of children, like at one time American blacks, we had a lot of children. And I personally come from a household, one of 7 kids of the same parents, one of 7 children. And this person that was relaying the story to me about the status of Native Hawaiians, she has, of the same parents, there's 5, and then her biological father has other children with another woman, and that's about 9. So she too comes from a large family, a large number of siblings. So it's going to be pricey to feed all of them, right? It's pricey, it's expensive. So what do? How do you feed 5 or 9 or 14 kids? How do you do this? Well, you eat a lot of processed food, packaged food like white rice, processed, noodles. And you live on this. You eat very little greens, you eat a lot of starch. And so these processed foods have very little nutrient value. And when you eat large quantities of food with virtually zero micronutrients, high mineral content, things like that, it leaches from your body. And this also contributes to obesity in the American Black community and the Native Hawaiian community. It's virtually identical, but even more so for some reason in the state of Hawaii. Well, one thing I can also add that in the state of Hawaii, at least I was told that the number of Hawaiians is only 1%. So there was a genocide done. You're only 1% of your own land, 1% of the population. And listen to this. Blacks are now about, 12% of the population in this nation, 12%. It's slipping our percentage. It's slipping more and more. And each time with that slipping in percentages, more and more obesity. So here, Hawaii and the Hawaiians, the Native Hawaiians, are down to 1%. And with that, they're even peaking the morbid obesity status. See, they want to hide that fact from you. They want you to believe in the pretty girl that's doing the hula dance. See, a lot of those girls that you see doing the hula dance, many of them are not Hawaiian. They're Filipino or Filipino Chinese mix, like that. Sure, some of them could be a Native Hawaiian mix, yes. And also Native Hawaiians, what did they look like? They had black skin, curly hair, full lips, and fleshy nose. Who else looks like this but American Blacks? We had an even tighter hair texture, a tighter curl, and dark skin. Full lips, full nose, same. And you know what else? When I lived in Hawaii, that there is an anti-Black sentiment there. And I shared this before. When I lived in Hawaii, the first place that I rented was a room in a house, in a plantation house, right in town, in Lahaina. And it could have been my first day. It was at least the first week. And one of the white guys that was living there, I was the only Black female there. And he shared with me that in the 1970s, that they ran off the Black people off the island. Now, why would you say that to me? Well, he's doing his subliminal programming, I guess. He just had to share that information. Too bad I wasn't witty enough back then and tell him, well, they're going to run you off the island too. Yeah, it's a phoniness there of some of the whites that I met there. You had some beautiful white people there, but many of the white people there, they were afraid of being the new minority. And they were primarily from the West Coast. And they try to assimilate and try to get ethnic friends, friends of color, so that they don't get beat up, things like that. They walk in fear. And I thought to myself, how phony. Here they don't like blacks, but they're going to go to an island where the indigenous population look like black, something like black people, or a type of black person, and then all of a sudden want to be buddy-buddy because now you're the minority. But either way, that this video is not about that. But either way, I just interjected that. But the outcome was such that I did eventually leave the island. It was too expensive, and the hostility, the verbal hostility that I got from that island. But the indigenous population were very friendly to me. Very, very, very goodly people. So, where does this lead to now? My friend dying. And many people that I knew in Hawaii are dead now. And why is this? Why are they perishing? The indigenous people are being targeted. And the stresses that come with it, like the overeating, obviously there is something going on metabolically speaking for them to balloon to such weight levels, and the conditions that are happening in the home. There's another little secret that's happening there in Hawaii that's happening to other native peoples around the planet, and that has to do with incest. Incest is happening, and I know this is going to be a sensitive topic, sensitive subject. Incest. I believe it's rampant there in Hawaii, and I believe that's also contributing to the morbid obesity. That is a big stressor upon the people there, the Native Hawaiians. See, it seems like when you get a Native people and then you introduce another culture that's imposed upon them, it's a stressor. And the natural relationships that the indigenous Hawaiians had with each other, it was a very social community. They have a lot of children. They had a hierarchy, a queen and a king. It was a kingdom. And at one point, the different tribes were unified. I think it was King Kamehameha that unified the different islands of Hawaii together as one nation. They shared everything. Neighbors were responsible for other neighbors' children and stuff. An extended family and an extended community lifestyle. And I witnessed some of this in Hawaii. It was a beautiful thing. And people refer to other women as younger people, refer older people as auntie. Show the relationship that you consider family. And it was a mutual respect from the younger towards the older. But oftentimes, these people were the aunts. They had a large number of children. And so the likelihood that that person could have been an aunt too. But again, in this type of communal lifestyle, things were shared. Foods were shared, and people sleep in close quarters with each other. But then again, you had this European invasion on that island imposed on the people, and then you had large influx of people being brought in for labor as a labor source, because you couldn't force the Hawaiians to do the labor. So it's just like a repeat of what happened in the Caribbean. You had the indigenous Indians of the Caribbean, but it's hard to enslave a native population, but you oppress them and then they just die out. And then they brought in the African slaves. So in Hawaii, they just brought in people from Asia to do the physical work. And then slowly the numbers of the Hawaiians were dying out. But with this pressure and this introduction to a new European-based culture imposed upon the people, what was considered a natural relationship with their siblings, and between parent and child, or relative to relative, the mutual sharing, perversion entered in, and you have incest. I was told of someone who I know there. I was told this story just not too long ago, maybe 2 years ago. Someone who I knew from Hawaii, a young man. And I inquired about this individual. I said, hey, how's so-and-so doing? And they said, oh, he's not a good boy. He's been a bad boy. I said, what do you mean? And then the person said that he molesting his niece, and she called the authorities on him, and he's now arrested. I commend this victim, this female victim. She had the strength to come forward and to out her uncle. I'm shocked that something like that would happen. And yeah, that individual came from a very, very, very large family. And that person's siblings had a lot of children, and so they were always around children. And then I think the stress of no longer being in your own nation, your native culture, and the food, the poor food, the social conditioning. Because again, in the 1980s, I was told that Hawaiians, Native Hawaiians, were treated how American blacks are treated here in the mainland. Not good. So when you feel you're not valued, and your manhood, maybe you feel your manhood is being ripped away from you, and so you want to show aggression, and the nearest thing there to take out your aggression is a little person, a child, an innocent child. It's unheard of. Unheard of. And maybe to even exploit the social customs of how relationships might have been before colonialism and the European powers. Yes, you had, I heard that you had older women with younger men, people married early, but it was under a controlled system and not one of exploitation. And, a similar thing like this is happening in and among the native Australians, that all of a sudden you have a peak in incest, people dying of malnutrition just at high rates, or the Native American Indians and their alcohol abuse, and the high suicide rates among the Native Americans on the U.S. mainland in North America. It's awful, and it's all the stresses that are being done upon a people, a native people. But you don't have the same type of stresses or the manifestation of these stresses upon maybe other so-called minority groups or people of color who are living amongst the Native Hawaiian or the American Black. It's not the same. Their outcomes are not the same. The outcome of the Chinese American or the Japanese American or the Filipino American is not the same health-wise. In fact, the statistics show that they are living longer and have more money than American blacks, and even more money than American whites. they're actually thriving in the US. So I tell this story. And again, I'm not saying and sharing this story to shame Native Hawaiians, but to let you know that I see what's happening to you, and my heart to your heart, to awaken to your situation, to advocate for the preservation of your own. You are dying at a quick rate. My Hawaiian friend who passed away a little over 2 weeks ago was just a relatively young person. She was 61 years old. And yes, she was overweight. Yes, she should be considered obese. And the members of her family are dying of cancer also. In one family, dying of cancer. At least 3 of who I know definitively dying of cancer. In one family. I believe this is by design, my beautiful Native Hawaiian people. This is by design. Don't breed yourself out. Don't say, I can't take the pressure of being a Native Hawaiian. Let me teach my children, my daughters, marry outside of their race, their nationality, just to be able to endure the pain. No, don't breed yourself out. Demand clean food. Demand clean water. And you know what else? Something is telling me to say this also. Because I really feel that there's something going on in the state of Hawaii that's being hidden, that is stealth. Check the chemical residues of the land you're living on. Check. Something is telling me that there is poison in your land that you live on. You have to check. You have to check, because this obesity and morbid obesity is unnatural. And I'm wondering whether or not you're being targeted even at birth through the vaccines. Start checking what they're putting in your vaccines. In fact, don't even get the vaccines. Say no to vaccines. I think if you do this, my fellow Hawaiians, my beautiful Hawaiian people, from a non-Hawaiian person, don't take the shot, say no, and start examining what's going on within your community. Not everyone who looks like you, talks like you, act like you are you, nor do they represent you and want to promote well-being and well health among you. You're living in poverty. And you're living like the happy Hawaiian, as my Hawaiian friend said. Don't play the happy Hawaiian. Be vigilant for your health, your wealth, and your prominence on that island. Don't be bred out. You are a beautiful, beautiful people who shared the most aloha that I ever received. But when my friend died, I was told that she has a maximum of 7 more days to live, or 3 days at most to live, from 3 days to 7 days to live. I was in shock to give that short of a notice. And she didn't call me to tell me. And it was just 6 months prior that we had spoken. I spoke to her. My last communication that I have documented was Thanksgiving of 2017. And then 6 months later, she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And she went through all this 6 months battle, 7 months battle, and she hid it from me. And it was a family member, her sister, that called me and told me she just has 7 days to live. I'm so sorry about that. So I do this video in honor of my friend who is of Native Hawaiian ancestry and the plight that is happening to this beautiful people who shared aloha with me, shared their heart with me, shared their food with me, unlike any other group I've ever experienced. Don't go quietly into that good night. Stay strong, stay proud, and stay vigilant about the evils that are happening upon you. Don't breed yourself out. Expose what's possibly being done and demand it to stop. Demand quality food for your communities. So this is Spirit Journey, signing off. Take care, aloha, and mahalo.